This is Optimal Living Daily, where abundance comes from, by David Cain of Raptitude.com. And I'm your narrator, Justin Malik. I read to you every day of the year from the best articles and blogs I can find, with permission from the authors, of course. And it's all in an effort to make your and my days even a tiny bit better. And with that, let's get right to it as we optimize your life. Where Abundance Comes From, by David Cain of Raptitude.com. Everyone who was once a school kid knows the two different phases of summer holidays. Waking up on the first Monday of summer holidays is a feeling of unparalleled abundance. School seems light years away. It really feels like you have unlimited time. This feeling continues until one morning in August when you look at the calendar and have the opposite feeling because there are only 10 days left before school starts. These two feelings, abundance and scarcity, are ever-present forces in our lives. Often whole weeks or months or even years take the general tone of one or the other. But we also swing back and forth between them throughout each day. You look at the clock, expecting it to be 6-something, and it's 7:48. A feeling of scarcity descends immediately. You remember this coming Monday is a holiday. Well, a whoosh of abundance. You arrive at the show, and there's a huge lineup for tickets. You catch a news report about a sluggish economy. Your girlfriend says she doesn't want fries, but will have some of yours. Scarcity. Your boss tells you a deadline has been pushed back. Netflix adds a whole second season of Happy Valley. You've done every bit of laundry in the house, and it's all clean and folded. Abundance. Abundance is the feeling of all I need right now and more. It is the feeling that you can rely on your future, on your personal world, to provide for you. Scarcity is a sense that it's uncertain that what you need will be available. It activates the parts of the brain that deal with competition, urgency, and despair. Put simply, abundance feels great and scarcity feels bad. If we could live our whole lives feeling abundance, we would. You might even say that it's the primary feeling we seek in life because it represents the things we want most fundamentally: security, gratification, and freedom. What's interesting is that our current feeling doesn't necessarily mirror our actual situation. Rich people can feel scarcity about money, while penniless monks can feel like they have everything they need and more. It really seems to be the feeling of abundance that's most important to us, not the material reality we normally fixate on. If you think about it, we want an abundance of money and time because of how we believe it would feel to have those resources. What good would they do if we still felt the same? After all, having the next 10 days off school is an objectively better state of affairs than having only the next 7 days off. Yet, as a kid, I'm sure you felt a much greater sense of abundance on the Friday before a 7-day spring break than on the 10th last day of summer holidays. Our feelings of abundance and scarcity seem to depend much more on our moment-to-moment emotional reflexes than on an objective assessment of our actual situations. Discovering less of something than we expected pretty reliably brings on scarcity. Discovering more triggers abundance. And that seems true regardless of where we started. A typical middle-class American salary reportedly puts a person in the top 1 or 2% of income worldwide. But that level of wealth doesn't necessarily confer a feeling of material abundance, of all I need right now and more. Yet the prospect of a 25% raise from whatever salary always seems like it'd be enough to do that. The ice cream principle. A simple example of how our perspectives dominate our actual reality is something I call the ice cream principle. Imagine that out of the blue, you tell your child you're going to go for ice cream. 5 minutes later, tell them you've changed your mind and you'll go some other time. The state of affairs is no different than it was from the start, yet everything has changed. The kid went from no ice cream to no ice cream, yet now somehow things are much worse. We get attached really easily. As adults, we're a little better than kids at adjusting our expectations on the fly, or at least we've given up on the idea that a tantrum will change the situation. But our disappointment is real, and it hurts. Over a lifetime, we start protecting ourselves from this kind of pain by lowering expectations across the board. We steer away from the belief that maybe there is more love or wealth or freedom ultimately available to us than we need. Out of self-defense, many of us easily settle into scarcity thinking, finding a paradoxical sort of comfort in the idea that there's never going to be quite enough of anything. We apply this basic idea to all the areas of our lives that matter. Doing what you love for a living is a pipe dream. All the good men are married already. This world is going straight to hell. The good jobs go to people with connections. We're always going to be dealing with real limitations in life, but we create a lot of suspiciously absolute beliefs to prevent ourselves from actually bumping up against these limitations. The fearful part of the mind knows you don't have to have the experience of failure or disappointment as long as you believe trying is a waste of time. Having spent much of my life totally caught up in this kind of thinking, I know of two things that consistently make a big difference. The first is meditation, which I mention here constantly. Among other things, it trains you to adjust to reality on the fly without overreacting. Without being so prone to clinginess and neediness, you can see possibilities you're normally blind to. You become less paralyzed by the future and less hung up on the past. And you get more interested in what we can do rather than what we can't. And the other thing is generosity. We all know it feels good to give. It feels good to help. But it does a lot more than generate short-term good feelings. Generosity calls scarcity's bluff. Giving something you aren't required to give proves to yourself that you do have enough, and a little more even, at least, of this one thing. It erodes any prevailing belief of, there's just never enough, is there? And by generosity, I don't mean charity. I'm talking about being generous in the broader sense of offering value to others without being asked, building something useful, offering your time and patience, or solving even a tiny problem for someone, including yourself. Generosity cuts through the powerlessness and paralysis of scarcity thinking, both the general and specific kinds. Just listening generously to what someone else needs to say, for example, dispels any thoughts you have that nobody has time for anyone else. Again, there are real limitations in life, but our attitude towards what we have and don't have has a much greater and more pervasive effect on how it actually feels to live. How good our lives are really amounts to how it feels to be living those lives. You could have all you need and more, and never know it. You just listened to the post titled Where Abundance Comes From by David Cain of Raptitude.com, and I'll be right back with my commentary. Good taste is easy to spot, but hard to pin down. You know it when you see it. With your car, you want something sophisticated and daring, yet classic, approachable, but with an air of opulence. That's where the Range Rover Evoque comes in. The Range Rover Evoque is charisma in motion, art and craft in equal measure. Its exterior is a quietly bold expression of Range Rover DNA with a floating roof, continuous waistline, and three-dimensional grille that give it a captivating character. Inside, you'll find a calm, minimalist cabin anchored by a tactile gear shifter where clean lines, sumptuous materials, and advanced technology come together. Make a statement in the Range Rover Evoque. This elegant SUV elevates every drive, offering a new dimension of refinement and luxury. Whether you prefer a modern aesthetic or a warmer, authentic appearance, the Evoque's interior can be tailored to your taste. Ready to experience sophisticated design and premium materials in motion? Explore the Range Rover Evoque at LandRoverUSA.com. Thank you to David. I feel like the example of summer vacation versus the end of it was spot on. Feels like yesterday having those exact feelings. And the ice cream example is so simple, but perfectly shows how we can easily get so riled up and upset about something that we didn't even know we wanted 5 minutes ago. That's why I couldn't help but laugh during that little explanation. The whole thing's pretty mind-blowing, but I'm sure it happens much more often than we think. Now, I do practice meditation regularly right now, about 40 minutes a day's worth, and can agree that it helps with situations like these. But meditation is like exercise in that it really needs to be done frequently over and over, but it needs to be enjoyable. Otherwise, we'll give up or might even be worse off than when we started. And then as for generosity, that's probably something I can try to do more. But in either case, maybe today we can try to shift our perspective just a little bit. Instead of focusing on what we lack, maybe we can notice the abundance around us and find a small way to be generous, which, as he said, could be as simple as just listening to a friend or helping them out with something small. I'm sure even that small thing can make a big difference. So thank you to David for this one. Thank you for being here. You coming back to listen every day keeps all of this going. And thank you if you've ever shared this show with someone else. It really means a lot. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.